welcome to another episode of From the Cave, How to Be Master of the Game. We've been looking at world building, and specifically we've been looking at how does story help build worlds, and how does coming up with story first help design your world so that by the time you come to putting your kings and queens in place, your Dark Lords of the Sith onto the battlefield, everything has been done for you. We looked at how does your world evoke story. We're now going to look at how does your world help drive story. Now, what do we mean by drive? Your players are not necessarily going to go after every adventure you throw them. As a matter of fact, your players may go in the exact opposite direction of where you want them to head. So what are you going to do to drive them in the right direction? If you create a world that has several mechanisms in place already that will naturally drive them, you will seem like a great game master, and you won't seem like one of those idiots who just railroads the story to however you want it to take place. So what can we build into our world to help drive our story and to help drive our players' characters? We're offering them glory, we're offering them adventure, we're offering them resistance, but they don't want to take any of it. Well, we now fall back onto some good old tried and tested adversaries. Nothing drives players more than adversaries. And there are different types of adversaries out there, let me tell you. Well, I am going to tell you. That's why you're listening to this. And focus. Adversaries come in different forms, different shapes, different guises, but ultimately they all serve to do one thing, and that is to drive the story. By identifying our adversarial forces at work, it allows us to define our world a little bit better. And the biggest one is climate. Are we going to use climate as a means of driving people to take action? Or is the climate simply going to be passive? We need to motivate our characters. So if in creating your world you decide that climate may be something that's useful to you, then by all means use it now. How can climate be useful to you? If the world the players are in is particularly arid, dust storms can drive their ship off course, dust storms can blind the caravan, lack of water can force players to have to move or die, discovery of water can redirect the entire direction of the character's focus, the discovery of water could be the main adventure. The environment becomes important. So when you're drawing a map, don't just create a map. Also, and I used to do this, don't create a map going, well, if we've got a mountain range here, because of the airflow from the ocean over there, it means this side will be a desert. Although that creates beautiful maps, it's not helping you tell your story. On the other hand, if you decide, my story needs to have some kind of driver in it, and I'm going to quite happily use geography to do it, now suddenly your geography starts to make sense from a story perspective. So now an entire continent is a desert. Is that possible? Who cares? It's not important. No one is going to question your geography. Unless, of course, you happen to be running a very small campaign around a bunch of geologists trying to uncover the mystery of the planet. And then you have a whole different problem. So do not be afraid to establish weather as a principal means of driving your story. Maybe it's not desert, maybe it's snow, maybe it's not snow, maybe it's a planet that's particularly susceptible to hurricanes, or one where wind is considered bad luck. Either way, if you're going to use some kind of environmental factor, you need to make sure to introduce it very early on in your game. And that means at your world building stage. Another form of adversarial force that can help drive is to start bringing in institutions. Is it a military hierarchy? Is it a priesthood that are particularly dominant? Is there a secret service that's skulking about in the shadows? But please be warned, you do not want to suddenly have, at the climatic moment when the characters are all about to die, your secret service suddenly popping up from the shadows saying, oh, hello, I've been monitoring your progress and I think I should step in now and miraculously save you from the stupid situation that your stupid players got you in. That is fatal. On the other hand, If you have established that your world has a secret organization and that they periodically have little things that they do, people suddenly mysteriously disappear, or everybody's an agent, or everyone's a spy, then you might be able to work out a way that your characters can get out of that life-changing situation by simply making use of that device. And using it in the exact opposite direction, you can then also have said secret services or powerful entities approaching the players' characters saying, "Thou shalt go forth, or I shall simply erase you." Other kinds of drivers, aside from the structured drivers or the environmental forces, can simply be a sense of urgency from those that are going to be giving the players glory. Does your world feature people who are going to start taking notice of the players' characters? The answer should immediately be yes. Remember, you're offering them glory. So a world where every single character is cynical or every single character is perhaps slightly evil is a very bland world. You need to make sure that what you are populating your world with is a variety of characters who will act both as those that support the player's characters and those that are against the player's characters, for whatever particular reason. Don't be afraid at this point to say, I am going to use my populations to drive the player's characters. I am going to purposefully, in this town, insert someone who is going to help the characters for no good reason aside from the fact that they've heard about them through some mysterious grapevine and that they are going to support them 100%. Other kinds of drivers that you can rely on to help you force the players to move is on a much bigger scale than merely wind or a desert. It is on a planetary scale, or in the case of science fiction, on a galactic scale. Perhaps there is something happening that literally changes the planet. Day-night cycles might be ridiculously different. There is nothing stopping you from saying that during the night undead rise from the ground and consume anybody who is outdoors, or that every 500 hours the entire galaxy rotates through 180 degrees and anything that is not within the gravimetric protection of a fairly large body is simply dashed to molecules. Don't be afraid to think big. And I know that I have been accused in the past of thinking really big, but we are trying to create some fantastical stories here. And primarily, we're trying to create things that will help us in the future, when we're running our adventures, to be able to drive the story forward, as well as to be able to control the characters. And we will be talking about that in our next session. We have a few left where we're talking about change and control in our story and how that helps us create worlds. So I hope this little session on drive and what factors you can use to build into your world to help you drive that story home has been useful to you. If it has, please click that like button or subscribe so that we know that you care, and we will try and answer any questions that you may have. We do read them, I swear to you, honestly, I'm not lying. Until then, happy gaming.